My question has to do more with around what's happening here in the U.S. because this is funded by our tax dollars, by our ruling class. So we trying to push back with it. In my union, we're trying to push back with it on it, and have had some success. But then there's been attacks. We got doxxed, and our resolution was published in the Daily Wire along with my name and the name of another union member who was on that resolution. And I'm just saying that because it's on my mind, but it leads to the question of what can you speak to that issue of here in the U.S. how the censorship, the pressure coming from people, not so it's they're not necessarily hardcore Zionists, but they're in fear, and they're using that line that to talk about the genocide is somehow anti-Semitic, which is how we've been attacked in our union, or is divisive. If you just speak generally to that issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing new for those of us who's been involved, and thanks for what you're doing. We saw the United Auto Workers pass a resolution. Sorry?
Well, this is the Massachusetts Teachers Association.
Yeah, but the United Auto Workers has created a lot of space for union activity on this by declaring their opposition and their call for a ceasefire under new leadership. And so I think it's an important moment for unions. Unions, unfortunately, a lot of unions represent workers whose jobs are dependent on military industry, which is one of our few productive industries. Like the tear gas that Israel uses to repress Palestinians is made in Western Pennsylvania, John Fetterman territory. And no, that's not what happened to him. Many things happened to him, and he's sort of a perfect emblem or embodiment of our zombified political class, because he's basically a cyborg who's controlled by other people, and he was paid a lot of money, legal bribery, by the Israel lobby in Pennsylvania through a campaign led by the former chief of staff to Bob Casey, who's an Israeli cutout, basically. And they now have a billboard campaign all around Pennsylvania thanking John Fetterman for what he's done. They basically took a cyborg and just animated him into like a genocide lackey. And but that's what they do with so many of the senators. And in Texas, there's Elbit Systems has a huge factory. Elbit makes the Hermes drones that are killing so many people in Gaza. They're job creators. That's how it's seen. And a lot of those jobs are union jobs. So it becomes difficult for unions to step up. And by design, I mean, that's so much of what the Ukraine aid is about too. Zelensky came to D.C. just on Capitol Hill 2 days ago. He met with Biden, but who else did he meet with? The heads of Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and Raytheon, all the big arms manufacturers. That's his main constituency for support in a country that's tired of shoveling billions of dollars into a proxy war that Ukraine has effectively lost, where they're bringing like old men and women to the front lines to die for what? But that war it's just a way of washing money through a conflict back into the arms of these contractors who are responsible for like the flourishing economy of Washington, D.C., where so many people there are contractors. So that's a huge problem, but it's something that needs to be taken on directly. Congress, I mean, is pathetic and bought off, but and they're willing to accept that the State Department of Tony Blinken authorized a shipment of 16,000 tank shells to Israel without congressional approval. They fast track it. They're providing no transparency on these weapons. So the least we can do is demand more transparency, force Congress to at least demand some authority, make them vote on it. It's like how, they should have voted on Medicare for all, but the squad didn't want to make that a negotiating point. At least force them to vote on genocide. And then on the free speech attacks and what Sabrina was saying about what's happening at Harvard, Penn, my alma mater, where, as Curtis Mayfield put it, I met educated fools from uneducated schools. And what is it, Yale? This is all a concerted campaign that's being organized by the Israel lobby. Everyone involved in it is an Israel lobbyist. And if you look at the timeline, we're going to have a piece by Wyatt Reed up tomorrow at the Gray Zone that explains how this all unfolded. It started in Congress, where they began to define statements of anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. And there's now a new resolution by Tom Cotton to declare from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, as hate speech. All the fake free speech warriors are supporting the greatest attack on the First Amendment in history, or, well, since probably HUAC. And they use that as leverage to question these college presidents on those phrases, with the assumption that they're calls for the genocide of Jews. There are no calls for the genocide of Jews on any college campus. And then they've got this lawsuit at UPenn. Okay, I went to Penn. We proudly called it Jew Penn because there were so many Jewish kids there, because the other Ivy League schools back in the day had quotas on how many Jews could go to school, because they were afraid that we were just going to, excel. It was supposed to be, Harvard was supposed to be, Brahmin WASP city, and they didn't want us. We were scoring really well on the tests and everything. So UPenn didn't have quotas, so it had a large number of Jewish students. When I went there in the 90s, Jewish students thrived there. Like the 5 towns of I felt like I was living in the 5 towns of Long Island when I was there. Jewish students felt no threat, and it's the same today. The problem for them is that it's a more diverse student population, where South Asians, Arabs, people who are from countries where they don't just get brainwashed on Israel are coming in, because they're scoring very well and performing very well, and they're on their way to being engineers and so on. And they are leading activism that didn't exist during the 1990s when I was there. So how do they stop it? Just define it all as hate speech, define it all as genocide, and get campus presidents fired if they will not crack down, because the Zionist appeal is not to the people. They don't have people to appeal to. They don't have a real base to appeal to. It's always an appeal to authority, to either assassinate someone they don't like, or to assassinate their character, fire them, destroy their careers, dox them. And that's what they're doing with these campus presidents, who performed very poorly and have revealed themselves to be extremely mediocre, like our entire liberal intelligentsia that fell for so many propaganda shams. I wasn't surprised. And so we're stuck with this fake debate over a non-existent wave of anti-Semitism that's being defined according to terms that are cooked up by the Israel lobby. Most of it is based on ADL data. And the ADL is defined rallies like the one you promoted in Saturday as an anti-Semitic incident. So their anti-Semitic incident reports are filled with rallies for Palestine solidarity, for an end to the killing of women and children. I could just call and say, somebody said something mean to me and I'm Jewish, and they would rack that up as an anti-Semitic incident. We asked them for the raw data and the incident reports, and they refused to provide it to us. And then you have the UPenn students lawsuit. All the students are actually Israel lobby cadres who are interning for AIPAC and so on. The law firm is a pro-Israel law firm connected to Donald Trump's Israel and former Israel ambassador David Friedman. And look at what they're alleging. One student from SJP wrote an op-ed declaring that Israel's an apartheid state. That's an anti-Semitic incident, according to them. So we just have to just not accept their terms, not accept the intimidation, not believe them, and just assume that everything they say is either a lie or a confession